Marcus Chen floated through the airlock of the mining shuttle, his boots clicking against the metal floor as artificial gravity took hold. The asteroid belt survey had been routine until now. 3 weeks of collecting rock samples and checking for rare metals. Nothing exciting ever happened out here, in the cold space between Mars and Jupiter. He pulled off his helmet and ran a hand through his black hair. At 32, Marcus had spent 8 years working as a xenobiologist for Luna Research Station. His job was simple: study any alien life they might find. So far, that meant looking at space bacteria and tiny organisms that barely counted as alive. Earth had been alone in the universe for as long as anyone could remember. "Chen, get over here." Dr. Sarah Mitchell's voice echoed through the shuttle bay. She was the mission leader, a woman who followed every rule in the book. Marcus respected her, but sometimes he wished she would take more chances. He walked over to where she stood with the other team members. They were all looking at something on the scanning table. As Marcus got closer, his breath caught in his throat. It was definitely alive. And it was definitely not from Earth. The creature was small, about the size of a house cat. Its body was covered in what looked like crystal plates that shifted color from blue to purple to silver. Thin, almost transparent wings lay folded against its back. Most strange of all, patches along its sides glowed with a soft, pulsing light. "Found it stuck in a crack on asteroid 47B, said Tom Rodriguez, their mining expert. Thing was barely moving. Probably been there for days. Maybe weeks. Marcus knelt down to get a better look. The creature's breathing was shallow and fast. Its crystal plates had cracks running through them, and the glowing patches were very dim. It was clearly hurt, and probably dying. "We need to get it back to the station immediately," Dr. Mitchell said. "This is the first alien life form we've ever found. The science team will want to study every cell." "It needs help now," Marcus said quietly. He could see something in the creature's large, dark eyes. It wasn't just pain. It was fear. The same look he had seen in injured animals back on Earth. "Look at it. It's terrified." "It's a specimen, Chen, doctor," Mitchell replied firmly. "We follow protocol. Containment field. Sterile environment. Full biological analysis. We can't risk contamination." Marcus stared at the small alien. Its breathing was getting weaker. Whatever this thing was, it was dying while they argued about paperwork. The creature made a soft sound, almost like a kitten crying for its mother. That sound changed everything for Marcus. "I'll prep the containment unit," he said, but his mind was already working on a different plan. The trip back to Luna Research Station took 6 hours. Marcus spent most of it in the lab section, officially monitoring the alien's vital signs. Dr. Mitchell checked on him twice, but she trusted Marcus to do his job properly. What she didn't know was that Marcus had made a choice that would break every rule in the book. Instead of keeping the creature in the cold containment field, he had moved it to a small portable habitat unit. He had given it water and tried different foods from his own emergency rations. When the creature had shown interest in the protein bars, he had broken them into tiny pieces and watched it eat. Most importantly, he had talked to it. "Hey there, little one," he said softly as the creature nibbled on a piece of protein bar. "I know you're scared. I know you hurt. But you're safe now." The creature looked up at him with those large, dark eyes. For a moment, Marcus could swear it understood him. When they docked at Luna Station, Marcus faced his biggest challenge yet. He had to get the creature past the medical scanners and into his private quarters without anyone noticing. If Dr. Mitchell found out what he had done, he would lose his job and probably face criminal charges. But as he looked at the small alien, now breathing more steadily and with slightly brighter glow patches, he knew he couldn't hand it over to be cut apart in the name of science. That night, in his small room on Luna Station, Marcus set up a proper home for his new friend. He used spare equipment to create a warm, humid environment. He tested different foods and found that the creature liked both the protein bars and some of the mineral supplements from the geology lab. "What should I call you?" he asked as he watched the creature explore its new home. The crystal plates on its body shifted colors as it moved, sometimes shimmering like oil on water. "How about Shimmer? You like that?" The creature looked at him and made that soft sound again. This time, it didn't sound sad. It sounded almost like it was trying to talk. Over the next few days, Marcus developed a routine. During work hours, he acted normal and helped process the official reports about finding possible alien biological material on the asteroid. The samples they had taken were enough to keep the research team busy for months. But every evening, he returned to his quarters to spend time with Shimmer. The creature was healing fast. The cracks in its crystal plates were closing, and its glow patches were getting brighter. More importantly, it was learning. Shimmer watched everything Marcus did with intense curiosity. It learned to recognize its name and would come when called. It seemed to understand simple words like food and water. Most amazing of all, it started copying Marcus's actions, like waving or nodding. "You're smart, aren't you?" Marcus said one evening as Shimmer successfully solved a simple puzzle he had made from spare parts. "Smarter than anyone realizes." But Marcus knew this couldn't last forever. Someone would eventually discover what he was doing. He was playing a dangerous game, and the stakes were getting higher every day. As he watched Shimmer curl up in the warm corner of its habitat, Marcus realized he was no longer just hiding an alien specimen. He was protecting a friend. 3 months passed, and Shimmer grew stronger every day. What had once been a dying creature the size of a house cat was now healthy and vibrant, about as big as a small dog. The crystal plates on its body had healed completely, and now shifted through beautiful colors that seemed to match its mood. Warm golds when happy, cool blues when calm, bright silver when excited. Marcus had become expert at hiding his secret. He had rerouted some of the air circulation to his quarters to handle Shimmer's different breathing needs. He had set up a small fabrication unit to create the mineral supplements Shimmer needed. Most importantly, he had learned to read Shimmer's body language and sounds. The creature was incredibly smart. It had learned over 50 human words and could respond to complex commands. Even more amazing, it seemed to understand concepts like tomorrow and be quiet. When Marcus had to work late, Shimmer would wait patiently in the habitat. When someone knocked on Marcus's door, Shimmer would immediately hide and stay silent. But the most remarkable thing was the bond they had formed. Shimmer clearly loved Marcus in the same way a dog might love its owner, but with an intelligence that went far beyond any Earth animal. It would bring Marcus small objects it found interesting, curl up next to him while he read, and even seem to worry when Marcus was stressed about work. One evening, something extraordinary happened. Marcus was sitting at his desk, trying to solve a problem with the water recycling system, when he suddenly felt calm and focused. Ideas started flowing in his mind, and he quickly found the solution. When he turned around, Shimmer was staring at him intently, its glow patches pulsing in a steady rhythm. "Did you just—" Marcus started to ask, then stopped. Over the next few weeks, this mental connection grew stronger. Shimmer began showing Marcus images in his mind, memories of its past. Marcus saw glimpses of a vast crystal city floating in space. Tall, elegant beings with features similar to Shimmer's. And most disturbing of all, scenes of war and destruction. Through these shared memories, Marcus learned about Shimmer's people. They were called Zephyrians, and they had once ruled a great empire among the stars. But they were a proud people with strict rules about bloodlines and inheritance. The images showed Marcus that Shimmer was special. It had unique crystal markings that meant it was born to be a ruler. But those same markings had made it a target. In Zephyrian culture, unwanted heirs were often abandoned in space to die rather than risk future civil wars. Some powerful Zephyrians had decided that Shimmer was too dangerous to live, so they had thrown it out into the cold darkness between the stars. "They left you to die," Marcus said one night, as he gently stroked Shimmer's crystal plates. The creature made a sad sound and nestled closer to him. "But you're safe now. I won't let anyone hurt you." Marcus meant those words, but he was about to be tested. Dr. Mitchell had been getting suspicious. Marcus's recent work had been exceptional. Too exceptional. He was solving problems that should have taken weeks in just days. His reports showed insights about alien biology that seemed to come from nowhere. "Marcus, I need to ask you something," she said one morning as they met in the station's main lab. "How exactly are you coming up with these theories about the alien biological samples?" Marcus felt his heart start beating faster. "Just careful analysis," he said. "I've been spending extra time reviewing the data." 17 hours yesterday, Dr. Mitchell said, checking her tablet. 20 hours the day before. When do you sleep? I don't need much rest when I'm working on something interesting. Dr. Mitchell studied his face. She had known Marcus for years and could tell when he was hiding something. "Marcus, if you found something you're not sharing with the team, I need to know. This discovery belongs to all of humanity, not just one person." That afternoon, Marcus received the message he had been dreading. Station security would be conducting random inspections of all quarters within the next week. They were looking for any unauthorized biological materials. Marcus sat in his quarters that evening, watching Shimmer play with a puzzle toy he had made. The creature had grown so much, not just in size but in intelligence and personality. It was like having a brilliant child who also happened to be his best friend. "What am I going to do with you?" Marcus asked softly. Shimmer looked up at him, and suddenly the mental connection opened wider than it ever had before. Marcus was flooded with images and emotions from Shimmer's mind. He saw how much the creature loved him, how safe it felt in his care, and how grateful it was to be alive. But he also sensed something else. Shimmer knew they were in danger. The creature moved to its favorite corner and began doing something Marcus had never seen before. Shimmer's crystal plates started glowing brighter and changing colors in complex patterns. The air in the room began to shimmer, and Marcus felt a strange, tingling sensation. "What are you doing?" More images flowed into his mind. Shimmer was showing him its people's technology, their methods of communication across vast distances of space. The creature was calling for help. For 3 days, nothing happened. Marcus went about his normal routine while trying to figure out how to keep Shimmer safe. He considered trying to steal a shuttle and escape. But where could they go? Earth's authorities would hunt them down, and space was too dangerous for a small ship. On the 4th day, everything changed. Long-range sensors detected a ship approaching the Luna system. It was unlike anything humans had ever seen. A graceful vessel made of the same crystal material as Shimmer's plates, moving faster than should have been possible. The ship sent a single message in perfect English. "We come to retrieve what was lost among the stars. We mean no harm to the protectors of the young one." Station alarms blared as the alien ship took position near Luna. Dr. Mitchell rushed to Marcus's quarters and found him sitting calmly with Shimmer in his lap. "Marcus," she said, staring at the healthy, beautiful creature that bore no resemblance to the dying specimen they had found months ago. "What have you done? What have you done?" "I fed a hungry child," Marcus said simply. "And now, its family has come to take it home." The crystal ship sent down a small transport pod. 3 tall, elegant Zephyrians emerged. Their features clearly related to Shimmer, but more mature and refined. They moved with the grace of beings who had lived among the stars for thousands of years. The lead Zephyrian approached Marcus and spoke in accented English. "Human Marcus Chen, you have given life to one who should have died. This is not the way of our people, but we honor your choice. The young heir is healthy and strong because of your care." Marcus looked down at Shimmer, who was purring softly in his arms. "Will I ever see it again?" The Zephyrian considered this question carefully. The one you call. Shimmer must learn the ways of our people and claim its birthright. But it will never forget the human who showed kindness when all others would have shown indifference. As they prepared to leave, Shimmer shared one final image with Marcus. A promise that someday, when it had grown into its full power, it would return to repay the debt of kindness. Marcus watched the crystal ship disappear into the star-filled darkness, carrying his friend toward a destiny among the distant worlds. 20 years had passed since Marcus Chen watched the crystal ship carry Shimmer away into the darkness. He was 52 now, with gray streaks in his black hair and lines around his eyes from years of studying alien life forms under bright laboratory lights. The world had changed dramatically since that day. Humanity had made contact with 6 different alien species, established trade routes across 3 solar systems, and built space stations that served as meeting points for multiple civilizations. Marcus had become Earth's leading expert on alien biology and culture, traveling throughout human space to study new forms of life. But he had never forgotten his first alien friend. Marcus sat in his office on Terra Nova Station, humanity's newest and largest space facility, reading the latest reports from the galactic news networks. The information was troubling. The Zephyrian Empire, once one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy, was tearing itself apart. The troubles had started 5 years ago when the old emperor died without naming a clear heir. Different noble families claimed the right to rule, and what had begun as political arguments had turned into open warfare. Entire star systems were choosing sides, and ancient alliances were crumbling. Dr. Chen, his assistant, a young woman named Lisa Park, knocked on his office door. The evening briefing is about to start. Marcus nodded and followed her to the main conference room. Admiral Sarah Torres, who had been promoted to head of Human Space Command, was already presenting the latest intelligence to a room full of officials and scientists. The situation in Zephyrian space continues to deteriorate, Admiral Torres said, pointing to a holographic star map. We've confirmed that at least 12 colonial worlds have gone dark in the past month. Refugee ships are fleeing toward neutral space, but most aliens won't accept Zephyrian refugees because of old political grudges. Marcus studied the map with growing concern. Red markers showed areas of active fighting, while yellow ones indicated worlds that had stopped all communication. The pattern was disturbing. The Empire was collapsing from the outside in, like a dying star. What about the Void Seekers? Asked Dr. Martinez from the Cultural Studies Department. Are they taking advantage of the chaos? Admiral Torres's expression grew grim. Intelligence suggests they're moving ships into position around the outer Zephyrian territories. The Void Seekers have been waiting for an opportunity like this for centuries. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The Void Seekers were an ancient race that had consumed dozens of civilizations over the millennia. They were patient predators who waited for other species to weaken themselves through war, then swept in to harvest the survivors for resources and slave labor. What's Earth's official position? Asked Ambassador Wilson, the head of Human Diplomatic Services. Neutrality, Admiral Torres replied firmly. The Zephyrian Civil War is an internal matter. Humanity has trade agreements with several factions, and we can't afford to take sides. Our priority is protecting human interests and staying out of alien conflicts that have been brewing for thousands of years. Marcus wanted to speak up, but he knew it would be pointless. Earth's government had adopted a policy of careful neutrality since making contact with alien civilizations. They had learned that getting involved in alien politics was dangerous and expensive. But Marcus couldn't forget the small, frightened creature he had nursed back to health 20 years ago. Somewhere in that chaos of war and destruction, Shimmer was either fighting for survival or already dead. That night, Marcus sat in his quarters watching the galactic news feeds. The reports were getting worse. A major Zephyrian fleet had been destroyed in the Kepler system. Millions of refugees were stranded on dying worlds with no way to escape. Ancient cities that had stood for thousands of years were being bombed to rubble. The worst part was watching the other alien species' reactions. Most were doing exactly what humanity was doing, staying neutral and protecting their own interests. A few were even positioning themselves to benefit from Zephyrian weakness by claiming abandoned territory or cutting new trade deals with the winning faction. "This is wrong," Marcus said to his empty room. "We're all just standing by, while an entire civilization destroys itself. But what could one human do?" Even if Earth wanted to intervene, they were still newcomers to galactic politics. Human military technology was advanced for their age as a spacefaring species, but it couldn't match civilizations that had been traveling between stars for millennia. As Marcus prepared for bed, he noticed something on his personal communication system. It was a message that had been flagged as junk mail, but something about it caught his attention. The sender was listed as unknown deep space transmission. Curious, Marcus opened the message. What he saw made his heart stop. It was just an image, a simple drawing that looked like it had been made by a child. It showed a human figure and a small creature with crystal plates, sitting together under what might have been stars. At the bottom, in wobbly letters that looked like someone learning to write human words, was a message. "Still remember. Still grateful. Still your friend." Marcus stared at the image for a long time. Could it really be from Shimmer? After 20 years? The drawing was exactly the kind of thing a young Zephyrian might send. Simple, direct, but filled with meaning. Over the next few weeks, Marcus found himself checking the galactic news obsessively. He was looking for any mention of a young Zephyrian leader who might be Shimmer. There were dozens of nobles claiming to be the rightful heir, but most of them were from established families with long political histories. Then he saw something interesting, deep in a minor news report about refugee movements. There was a brief mention of someone new, a mysterious leader who had appeared in the outer territories, gathering scattered Zephyrian forces under a banner marked with unusual crystal patterns. This leader was different from the others. Instead of attacking enemy civilians, they were protecting refugee ships and establishing safe zones for displaced populations. "That's not normal Zephyrian behavior," Marcus muttered as he read the report. Traditional Zephyrian warfare was brutal and total, with little concern for non-combatants. But this new leader seemed to be following different rules. More reports trickled in over the following months. The mysterious leader's forces were growing, but not through conquest. Instead, they were attracting followers by doing something unprecedented in Zephyrian culture, showing mercy to defeated enemies and sharing resources with weaker species. Marcus began to hope that maybe, just maybe, his old friend had survived and grown into something remarkable. But even if Shimmer was alive and fighting in the Civil War, what could Marcus do to help? He was just one human in a galaxy that had decided to look the other way while the Zephyrian Empire burned. Little did Marcus know that the galaxy's indifference was about to change. Far away in the depths of space, ancient engines were stirring to life. The Void Seekers had finally decided that the Zephyrian Empire was weak enough to harvest, and once they finished with the Zephyrians, they would start looking for their next target. Humanity's policy of neutrality was about to be tested in ways no one could imagine. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning that would change the course of human history forever. Marcus was in his laboratory on Terra Nova Station, studying tissue samples from a recently discovered alien plant species, when every alarm in the facility began screaming at once. Emergency lights flashed red as the station's AI announced in a calm voice that somehow made everything more terrifying. "Unknown fleet detected at the edge of Sol system. All personnel report to designated emergency stations." Marcus dropped his sample container and ran to the nearest observation deck. Through the reinforced windows, he could see dots of light that hadn't been there an hour ago. Even at this distance, it was clear that the approaching ships were massive. "How many?" Admiral Torres asked as she burst into the command center, still adjusting her uniform. Lieutenant Commander Park, who had been promoted to head of station security, stared at her readings in disbelief. Over 300 vessels. Admiral, the largest ships are reading as 12 kilometers long. We've never seen anything like this. Are they void seekers? Torres asked, her voice tight with fear. No, ma'am. The energy signatures are wrong. These are Zephyrian ships. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. A Zephyrian fleet this size could only mean one thing. Someone had won the Civil War and was now in control of the Empire's remaining forces. But why were they coming to Earth? Sir, we're receiving a transmission, reported Communications Officer Chen. It's coming from the lead ship. And it's in English. Admiral Torres looked confused. Zephyrians don't usually bother learning human languages. Put it through. 2. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of an alien vessel. But instead of the cold, sterile environment Marcus expected, the ship's interior was warm and welcoming, filled with soft light and what looked like growing plants. At the center of the bridge stood a figure that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. It was clearly Zephyrian, tall and graceful, with crystal plates covering its body that shifted through beautiful colors. But this being was wearing something Marcus had only seen in ancient Zephyrian art. A crown made of living light that floated above its head like a halo of stars. The creature's large, dark eyes were familiar, even after 20 years. Greetings, humans of Earth, the figure said in perfect English, with just a hint of the musical accent Marcus remembered. I am HFY the restored, rightful emperor of the Zephyrian people. I come seeking Marcus Chen, who once showed kindness to a lost child among the stars. The command center fell silent. Every eye turned to look at Marcus, who stood frozen in shock. The small, frightened creature he had nursed back to health had grown into a powerful leader wearing the crown of an ancient empire. That's me, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. Admiral Torres grabbed his arm. Marcus, what exactly did you do 20 years ago? Before Marcus could answer, the Zephyrian emperor spoke again. Marcus Chen, you gave life to one who should have died. You shared your food with the hungry, and your warmth with the cold. You showed mercy where others would have shown indifference. The Zephyrian people remember this debt. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Park said urgently. The fleet is moving. They're entering the inner system. Torres looked at the tactical display in horror. Earth's defense fleet was powerful by human standards, but it was designed to fight human-scale battles. Against 300 Zephyrian warships, humanity wouldn't last 10 minutes. Marcus, Torres said quietly, I think you need to talk to your friend. The next few hours were the strangest of Marcus's life. He was brought aboard the Zephyrian flagship in a small transport pod, surrounded by alien technology that looked more like art than machinery. Everything was organic curves and flowing lines, decorated with patterns that seemed to move and change as he watched. When Marcus finally came face to face with Shimmer, now Emperor HFY, the years seemed to melt away. Despite the crown and the formal robes, despite the fact that the creature was now 3 times taller than a human, those dark eyes were exactly the same. Hello, Marcus, HFY said softly. And for a moment, their voice sounded just like the purring kitten Marcus remembered. I told you I would never forget the human who showed kindness when all others would have shown indifference. Shimmer? Marcus asked. And the Emperor's crystal plates shifted to warm gold at the sound of their old nickname. I have not been called that name in many years, HFY said with what might have been a smile. But yes, I am still your friend who you fed protein bars and taught human words. They talked for hours. HFY explained what had happened after leaving Earth 20 years ago. They had returned to Zephyrian space and begun the long process of learning their people's ways and claiming their birthright. But the lessons Marcus had taught them about compassion and protecting the weak had changed everything. Traditional Zephyrian culture was built on strength and dominance. The strong ruled, and the weak served. But HFY had introduced radical new ideas. That leaders should protect those who couldn't protect themselves. That mercy was stronger than cruelty. that different species could be friends instead of just allies or enemies. My advisors thought I was insane, Zephyrus High admitted. They said human ideas would make the Empire weak. But when the Civil War began, those same ideas allowed me to unite our people in ways they had never been united before. The Emperor's forces hadn't won through superior firepower, though they had that. They had won because displaced Zephyrians flocked to a leader who promised safety instead of revenge, protection instead of conquest. Even former enemies had joined them when they realized that Zephyrus High meant what they said about mercy and justice. "But why are you here?" Marcus asked. "Why bring your entire fleet to Earth?" Zephyrus High's expression became serious. "Because the real war is just beginning. The Void Seekers have been watching our civil war, waiting for us to exhaust ourselves. Now they think we are weak enough to harvest. Their fleets are already moving toward the outer territories of my empire. Actually. Marcus felt cold. He had heard stories about what the Void Seekers did to conquered populations. They didn't just defeat their enemies. They consumed them completely, taking everything of value and leaving behind empty worlds. The Void Seekers have studied all the young species in this part of the galaxy, Zephyrus High continued. They consider humans to be particularly valuable because of your adaptability and technological innovation. After they finish with what remains of the Zephyrian Empire, Earth will be their next target. What can we do? Marcus asked. Even if we combine our fleets, we're still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Numbers are not everything, Zephyrus High said, their crystal plates shifting to determined silver. The Void Seekers are ancient and powerful, but they have one weakness. They cannot understand cooperation between different species. They see only predators and prey, conquerors and conquered. The Emperor moved to a large window that showed both fleets, human and Zephyrian ships forming a defensive line around Earth. But you taught me something different, Marcus. You showed me that the strong can choose to protect the weak, that different species can become family. These are not just human ideas anymore. They have become Zephyrian ideas too. And if we can share them with other species, if we can build alliances based on protection rather than domination. Marcus began to understand. You're not just offering to help defend Earth. You're proposing a completely new kind of alliance. The galaxy has spent thousands of years following the Void Seeker model, Zephyrus High said. The strong consume the weak. Everyone fights alone. And in the end, only the most ruthless survive. But what if there was another way? What if the strong chose to lift up the weak instead of crushing them? Through the window, Marcus could see human and Zephyrian engineers already working together, sharing technology and tactical information. It should have been impossible. The two species had completely different ways of thinking and building. But somehow, it was working. I came to Earth to repay a debt, Zephyrus High said quietly. But now I think we are creating something much more important. We are proving that your human ideas can work on a galactic scale. As Marcus watched the combined fleet prepare for the storm that was coming, he realized that the small act of feeding a hungry alien child 20 years ago was about to change the entire galaxy. The Void Seekers thought they were dealing with the same old pattern of isolated species fighting alone. They were about to discover just how wrong they were. The debate in Earth's global council chambers was fierce. For 3 days, representatives from every human colony and space station had argued about Emperor Zephyrus High's proposal. The offer was unprecedented in galactic history, immediate elevation to protected status under the ancient compact, making humanity a major power overnight. Marcus sat in the observer section, watching politicians argue about the future of his species. Some saw the offer as humanity's greatest opportunity. Others viewed it as surrender of human independence. We cannot accept charity from aliens, declared Representative Harrison from the Mars colonies, his voice echoing through the chamber. Humanity has always stood on its own. We don't need protection from anyone. With respect, replied Ambassador Chen from Luna Station. Standing alone against the Void Seekers isn't bravery. It's suicide. They've consumed civilizations far more advanced than us. Marcus watched Zephyr's High sit patiently in the special diplomatic section. Their crown of living light dimmed out of respect for human customs. The Emperor had explained their proposal clearly. Humanity would be adopted into the Galactic Compact, not as a junior member or vassal state, but as an equal partner in a new kind of alliance. The question, said President Martinez from her position at the center of the council, is what this protection actually costs us. Emperor Zephyr's High, please explain once more what you're asking from humanity. The Emperor stood gracefully, their crystal plates shifting to respectful blue. Honored President, I ask for nothing except what you have already given. 20 years ago, Marcus Chen showed my people that strength can be used to protect rather than dominate. This idea has transformed the Zephyrian Empire. Now I offer to share that transformation with the entire galaxy. But what does that mean practically? Asked Representative Singh from the Europa Mining Consortium. It means that when the Trilaxian Republic asks for help defending against pirates, we send ships, Zephyr's High replied. It means that when the Keth Collective faces famine, we share resources. It means that when young species take their first steps into space, we guide them instead of exploiting them. Representative Harrison stood again. So we become galactic police officers? Fighting other people's wars and feeding other people's children? What do we get in return? Marcus wanted to speak up, but he wasn't a politician. Then he noticed something. Several other species representatives had quietly entered the chamber. The Trilaxian ambassador, with her flowing tentacles and wise old eyes. The crystalline delegate from the Keth Collective. Even a representative from the normally isolationist hegemony worlds. Zephyr's High noticed them too, and gestured with one elegant hand. The Trilaxian ambassador moved forward with the fluid grace of her aquatic species. Humans of Earth. 3 months ago, our outer colonies were under attack by the same raiders who have plagued us for decades. We sent a distress call to the Zephyrian fleet, not expecting help. Our peoples have never been allies. She paused, her large eyes reflecting the chamber lights. But Emperor Zephyr's High sent ships anyway. Not to conquer or claim territory, but simply because we asked for help. The raiders were driven off, and the Zephyrians asked for nothing in return, except that we consider extending the same aid to others who might need it. The Keth delegate stepped forward, their crystal form chiming softly as they moved. Our people have faced resource shortages for generations. The Zephyrians shared replication technology that will feed our population for centuries. Again, they asked for nothing except that we share what we could with others. More representatives came forward, each telling similar stories. The new Zephyrian Empire wasn't conquering or demanding tribute. It was building something completely different. A network of mutual aid and protection that was spreading across multiple star systems. This is what you offer humanity, President Martinez said slowly. Not just protection, but membership in this new alliance. With respect, honored President, Zephyr's High said. Humanity has already been a member since the moment Marcus Chen chose compassion over protocol. You have been teaching us how to build this alliance from the beginning. Tree. To the Prota. To the 7 Sis. To Heavy 2. The vote took place the next day. It was closer than Marcus had hoped. Humanity was still a young, proud species that didn't like accepting help. But in the end, pragmatism won. Earth simply couldn't face the Void Seekers alone. The formal ceremony took place on Terra Nova Station 1 week later. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to witness humanity's formal acceptance into what was being called the Protective Alliance. Marcus stood on the observation deck, watching as human and alien ships moved in formation around the station. Nervous? Zephyr's High asked, appearing beside him with their usual silent grace. A little, Marcus admitted. This is a big change for my people. We're used to being alone. So were mine, the Emperor said softly. For thousands of years, the Zephyrians believed that isolation meant strength. It took a human feeding a lost child to show us that true strength comes from connection. Through the window, they could see the combined fleet conducting joint training exercises. Human ships, with their angular, practical designs, flying alongside Zephyrian vessels that looked more like living sculptures. Trilaxian bioships that really were alive, swimming through space next to crystalline Keth, constructs that sang as they moved. "Sir," came a voice behind them. Lieutenant Commander Park approached with a datapad in her hands. "We're receiving reports from the outer sensor networks. Long-range scans show massive energy signatures moving toward this sector of space." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "How massive?" "Thousands of ships, sir. Void Seeker fleet composition. They're moving faster than we expected." Zephyr's High's crystal plates shifted to determined silver. "How long until they reach Alliance space?" 6 days, maybe 7. The Emperor turned to Marcus with something like excitement in their dark eyes. "Then it is time to see if our new alliance can truly protect those who cannot protect themselves." The next 6 days were a blur of activity. Ships from across Alliance space converged on the border systems. Human tactical expertise combined with Zephyrian technology. Trilaxian bioweapons, integrated with Keth energy shields. Species that had never worked together before found ways to complement each other's strengths. Marcus found himself serving as a liaison between human and Zephyrian forces, helping translate not just languages but entire ways of thinking about warfare and strategy. It was exhausting work, but he could see something remarkable taking shape. The Void Seekers arrived, expecting to find scattered, frightened species fighting each other for the right to surrender first. Instead, they found a united fleet that fought with coordination they had never seen before. Human adaptability, Zephyrian elegance, Trilaxian persistence, Keth innovation, all working together. The battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Void Seeker invasion fleet was retreating toward their own territory. Their first major defeat in over 1,000 years. But the real victory wasn't military. News of the Alliance's success spread across the galaxy. Species that had suffered under Void Seeker attacks for centuries suddenly saw hope. More civilizations requested membership in the Protective Alliance every day. Marcus stood once again on Terra Nova Station, now headquarters of the rapidly growing Alliance. He was 75 years old, his hair completely white, but his eyes were bright as he watched the busiest spaceport in human history. Zephyr's High joined him at their old spot by the observation windows. The Emperor looked exactly the same as they had 20 years ago. Apparently Zephyrians aged much more slowly than humans. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked. "Giving up the old ways of your empire to build all this?" Zephyr's High was quiet for a long moment, watching a human child play with a young Trilaxian in the station's central park. 20 years ago, a human showed a dying alien child that someone could care for those who were not their own species. That simple act changed the course of galactic history. The Emperor turned to look at Marcus with those same dark eyes he remembered from so long ago. "How could I regret learning that the strong can choose to protect the weak instead of consuming them?" Through the window, Marcus could see ships from dozens of different species working together, sharing technology and resources, protecting each other from threats that no single civilization could face alone. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts and misunderstandings, but it was something new in a galaxy that had known only competition and conquest for thousands of years. "The crown you wear," Marcus said quietly. "What does it really represent now?" Zephyr's High smiled. And for a moment, they looked like the small creature that used to curl up next to Marcus while he read. "It represents a promise that those who have power will use it to lift others up instead of holding them down. That no child, human or alien, should ever be left to die alone in the cold darkness between the stars. Marcus nodded, understanding at last the true gift that Shimmer had returned to give him. It wasn't protection, or political power, or military alliance. It was proof that simple human kindness, extended without expectation of reward, could grow into something that changed the entire galaxy. In the end, that was humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization. FM. Not their technology, or their weapons, or their strategic brilliance, but their radical belief that different species could choose to care for each other like family. And it had all started with one human who chose to feed a hungry alien child, instead of turning it over to be studied and dissected. Some gifts, Marcus realized, grew far beyond what anyone could imagine.